Good evening, America, and welcome to your Thursday edition of Just the News, No Noise. I'm your host, John Solomon, reporting to you, as always, from Washington, D.C. In just a few minutes, we're going to see President Joe Biden 2 weeks after his disastrous debate performance, one that caused an entire nation and, quite frankly, an entire world to question whether he still has the faculties to be president. President Biden's going to try to push back with a press conference at the end of the NATO summit. We're going to cover that here live on Real America's Voice. We'll be throwing to it as soon as the president steps to the podium. But in the meantime, there are a lot of other stories going on in the wings of the Biden presidency. More Democrats coming out, trying to press him out. But at the same time, a lot of other news going around. Amanda, why don't you bring us up to speed on all of the things that are on your radar? Good to have you on today, as always.
Good to see you, John. Happy Thursday to all of you. Yes, so let's get to some of these other news stories while we await President Biden's press conference, one that his own administration is calling his big boy press conference. I can't believe that's actually a thing, but it is. So let's start with President Biden then, and some new wrinkles to the story that we told you about yesterday. The actor and longtime Democrat activist George Clooney was pulling his support for Biden and asking him to step aside. This all comes after Clooney held a star-studded fundraiser that raised upwards of $30 million for the Biden campaign just a few short weeks ago. Well, it turns out a lot of people at that fundraiser had some reservations after being there with Biden, including former Obama speechwriter Jon Favreau, who had this to say on CNN.
I was there. Clooney was exactly right. And every single person I talked to at the fundraiser thought the same thing, except for the people working for Joe Biden, or at least they didn't say that. But I remember my wife, Emily, turned to me after the fundraiser and said, "What are we going to do?" And I said, well, there's a debate in a week. Either he'll do well in the debate, and we'll think, well, he was just tired because he flew all the way back from Europe, and that'll be that. Or he'll be like this at the debate, and then the whole country will be talking about it. So here we are.
Well, they claim that Biden's mental decline was all hidden from the public. CNN even ran this headline today. Angry and stunned Democrats blame Biden's closest advisors for shielding public from full extent of president's decline. But are they really stunned? Because I feel like this has been in everyone's purview for quite a long time, John. I understand that they wanted to make excuses and act like President Biden is in perfect health, had all of his faculties about him. But I think the fact that you had a 90-minute debate and the platform was such that they couldn't hide what was happening, and that's why they had to do an about-face.
Yeah, listen, Amanda, you're right. Anyone who's watched his events for the last 2.5 years have seen this decline. It isn't sudden. It isn't instantaneous. And by the way, it wasn't hidden. It's just that it was put on rewind for 90 minutes because you saw it over and over again for such a long period of time. Yeah, the media downplayed it, but anyone who's been out in the field, and that's why we've been talking about it here at Real America's Voice all the time. All right, folks, it's funny. Every time I look on the Just the News site, there is a new education initiative coming out of one state, the state of Oklahoma. It is one of the most innovative states when it comes to student safety, student competition, pushing teachers' unions in schools to do better, not let our children down. The man who's quarterbacking that extraordinary education revolution is joining us right now, Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt. Governor, great to have you on the show, sir.
Hey, it's good to be with you guys. Thanks for having me.
It is great to have you. We talk so often. We've had Superintendent Walters on this show, but everywhere in the country, people are turning to what you're doing in Oklahoma. And I wonder if you could give us a top line. What's the reaction been like since parents have gotten so much control back in their schools, the ESAs, all the things that you're doing to put schools in a better position?
Yeah, I mean, parents are just really, really excited. They come up to me all the time and just thank me for the refundable tax credit. And so just for all your audience, what that means is now in Oklahoma, every single family, regardless of your income, gets a refundable tax credit to go to a school of their choice. They can go to a private school, a Christian school. You can go to your local public school. We believe in charter schools. But you know what? It's amazing, but competition makes everybody better. And now the schools are having to compete for students, and that is a good thing. But also people are just super excited about the opportunity that if you're in a failing school district, now you have options and you can hold your school district accountable.
That's amazing.
Governor, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I'm sure you are aware that Californians love to leave California, and they've been going to Texas and Florida a lot, but I've also known of quite a few that have come to Oklahoma. Has that shifted the demographic at all? Have they brought their policies there at all?
Well, here's the deal. We're actually top 10 in net migration, meaning people moving to Oklahoma, not per capita, but true numbers. Oklahoma, we're 4 million people, so we're the 28th largest state, but we've got more people moving here. And the number one state is California. So, but here's what I tell Californians. I said, listen, here's the deal. I had to wait 18 years before I could vote in Oklahoma. I'm going to make you wait 18 years before you can vote in the state of Oklahoma. That's just a joke, by the way. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But they very quickly, those people will tell me, the Californians, they'll say, no, Governor, you don't have any idea. We're moving to your state because of your pro-family, pro-business policies. And we saw what happened during COVID in Oklahoma. We kept everything open, our schools, our businesses, because you don't put the Constitution in the attic just because somebody in Washington, D.C. tells you to. And we're so different than states like California that try to shut down churches. And it was just a nightmare. So people that believe in freedoms, personal responsibility, family values, entrepreneurship, deregulation, low taxes, they're moving to states like Oklahoma.
How have the teachers' unions reacted to all this? Because they've had such a monopoly on a failing education system for so long, and now you're giving that power to the parents, you're creating that competition. What's been their reaction, and what's advice would you give other governors that want to follow in your footsteps?
Well, pretty much. I mean, I ignore the teachers' union, and I just try to do what's right for parents and students. And so, because a lot of times we're not aligned. Why do we even talk about, unions? We should be talking about kids and how do we get better outcomes. And so that's all I'm focused on. And when you focus on the kids and you focus on, if you're a failing school, we want to hold them accountable. We want to fire those principals, those superintendents. We want to change. We want to inject competition. So I come from the business world, and the best way to improve those is to give parents choice and give them options. And so that's what we did in Oklahoma. And so when you have the money follow the student, it's just amazing what happens, and everybody starts getting in line if they're losing students. The other thing I remind people about is, rich people already had school choice. They could move, they could put their kids into a private school. But I just did school choice for every single family in Oklahoma. And it's amazing. So police officers and firefighters and wherever you come from, if you were stuck in a local school district, if you were a single mom and there were bad outcomes and your kid was getting into drugs or gang violence, now you can choose with this tax credit to take them to a private school. It's just amazing.
That is amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah, giving parents options. What a novel idea. You know who's not giving options, though? Democrats with respect to their nominee. It seems like Joe Biden is dug in. Other people are on the other side, and they're trying to make that not happen. But he's going to be taking the floor in just a little while to give his big boy press conference. I've seen the polling. It's not exactly close in Oklahoma. But how is Joe Biden faring in Oklahoma, and are the stakes very high for him tonight?
Well, I'll give you a prediction that President Trump is going to win the state of Oklahoma. So all 7 of our delegates are voting for him.
News alert.
He won. President Trump won all 77 counties in 2020, and I predict he'll win all 77 counties again, which is just amazing. I mean, I watched the debate like most of America, and they've got themselves in a pickle because. The democratic process, Joe Biden's the nominee, and they've been kind of hiding some things, it feels like, for a while, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch tonight. Sir, people look at Washington and Congress and the presidency, and they get frustrated, but there's a really interesting dynamic in Oklahoma. The legislature has really turned up a lot of legislation. You get it done, you get it signed quickly. The synergies, whether it's school safety or even taking on something like we're not going to allow any money to go to UN programs that were behind some of the anti-Semitism and Hamas. You've really dove into issues that normally states don't get into. How did that dynamic occur in Oklahoma? How's that come about?
I think Oklahoma, we're known as, pretty common sense. And I tell people all the time, let Washington, D.C. play politics. We're just literally trying to have the best education system. We want the best roads and bridges, best health care, and the best economy. My vision is to make Oklahoma the most business-friendly state. And that means we're going to keep lowering taxes. We're going to keep lowering regulation, make sense regulation. That's what businesses want. We want just a level playing field. But when we see stuff like, the president citing the WHO World Health Organization turning over some of the sovereignty to outside influences, That's where we take a stand and we say, listen, I represent 4 million Oklahomans. When you think about the 10th Amendment, states' rights, we believe that we're closer to the people. And I'll be the first to tell you that California is going to do things different than Oklahoma. And we're different than Texas or Florida or different than New York. And that's the way our system is set up. This is 50 states. It's a laboratory of democracy. And so we're not going to let some World Health Organization tell us how to operate in the state of Oklahoma. And so those are the small things. And I represent 4 million Oklahomans. They totally agree with me on that. And I'm going to represent the interest of our state. And we're not going to let an outside influence tell us when we should shut down or something that maybe benefit them politically. We're just different in Oklahoma.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
Governor, illegal immigration is still hot on the minds of every single American. And Oklahoma, you guys have tried to do some things within the bounds of legalities of your state, like banning illegal aliens from being in your state. But I believe a federal court put that on hold. Can you update us on that?
Yeah, I mean, here's the deal. I didn't all of a sudden make it illegal in Oklahoma to be an illegal immigrant, right? I mean, if you're here illegally, that's already against a federal law. And so all we said is we just gave our law enforcement some other tools in their tool belt to enforce that and to say, hey, we're not going to be a sanctuary state. We're going to make sure we enforce the law. But I very quickly will tell people, I believe we need to have reform in immigration laws, and we need to have reform in workforce visas. And I believe that workforce visas need to be at the state level. And so employers should be able to, match employees with, and make sure that the employers have the right employees. So we are absolutely for legal immigration. We're for more workforce visas and getting people that want to be part of the American dream. If people want to work here, do the right things, be part of the society, we absolutely believe in that. But we want you to do it. We want you to do it legally. And unfortunately, with these open borders, it's been unbelievable what's happening across the country. And we need to make sure that we put President Trump back in office so we can secure our southern border.
Yeah, so we've got about a minute left. The RNC convention is next week. President Trump will be nominated. The plank on education could have been copyrighted by the state of Oklahoma. There's so many ideas that are already in your laboratory. A lot of people are talking about, do we really need the U.S. Department of Education, or could it be gotten rid of and gone to block grants? Being someone who gets state money and federal money from there, what do you think about the education department? Is there a chance to get rid of it?
Well, here's the deal. I think we've been talking about that since Ronald Reagan was president. Yep. And 100% we can get rid of the, Department of Education federally. Why do we need that? Is it really just dividing the money up? I mean, what are they doing? It absolutely block grants. For all those people that are listening, we get money from the federal government for our education department in Oklahoma. And California gets money and Texas gets money. These are our federal tax dollars that are going up to Washington, D.C. Why do they get washed through a bureaucracy of, 100, 200,000 employees before they turn back around and come back to the states? Yep. So block grants make a lot of sense. Not only Department of Education, but a lot of those federal agencies have gotten way, way too big. And it's about protecting the union workers instead of getting the money in the classroom in states like Oklahoma and Texas and Tennessee and Iowa. And so, really, let's stop and think about it. What do they actually do in Washington, D.C. that benefits us in Jinx, Oklahoma, and in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and in Oklahoma City, or in Shreveport, Louisiana? And if you just think about that, it really doesn't make sense. And I think the American people are starting to wake up to say, what exactly do they do in Washington, D.C., and why do we have to, push all the money there before it comes back to the states?
Yeah, that is a question we have to answer in the next presidency. Governor, you're doing so much in that state. A lot of the other states are very envious of what you've been able to accomplish. Great to have you on. Thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. We'll see you in Wisconsin.
Absolutely. Sounds great. There's a lot of people think he'd be a great education secretary to get that job done. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, country music superstar John Rich is going to join his brand new song, Revelation. We'll debut that in just a few minutes after these messages. Hey, folks, if you're like me, your home is your castle, and it's likely your most precious and valuable asset. So why aren't you protecting it? Homes across America are being stolen in a scam called title theft. That's why you need home title protection. Think about this. If no one is watching out for your title, then it's just a matter of time until these cyber thieves target you. Don't fall prey to these thieves. Go to HometitleLock.com to make sure your title is safe. Use the promo code JUSTNEWS. They will send you a complete title scan of your home's title, and your first 30 days of triple lock home title protection is going to be totally free. HometitleLock.com. Use the promo code JUSTNEWS. Protect your most precious asset.
Welcome back, everybody. Someone who needs no introduction, but I'm going to do it anyway. He is the founder of Redneck Riviera Whiskey, John Rich. He is a country superstar. And before we bring him in, he has a new song out called Revelation. Take a listen.
Brimstone upon their heads, millstones around their necks. They'll feel the shaking when the trumpet sounds. And no matter where they hide, there'll be nowhere to run when Jesus puts his mighty foot on the ground. I can feel it coming like a dark train running. Get ready, 'cause the King is coming. The King is coming back again.
I love it. That was a piece of John Rich's new song, Revelation, and John joins us now to talk about it. John, thank you so much for being here. Congratulations on a spectacular song. I have to ask you, this is obviously a very interesting time in history. What was the inspiration for writing this song?
Well, if you look at the world today, it's unlike it's ever been in the past. I think a lot of the things written about in the book of Revelation that were pretty impossible to come to fruition are now very possible. For instance, the globalization of the world, the ability to track and trace every human being in the world. We've heard about the mark of the beast since we were kids. You learn about that, and nobody could ever understand, well, how will you be able to track everybody and know who's spending money where? And now we laugh at that and go, well, yeah, that's what they do, actually. So as we see the tumultuous nature of our country and of this planet, and understanding that certain forces are in play in a big way, to me, it's more important than ever that people dig back into the pages of the book and read what it actually says, because who can you trust anymore? It seems like every time you turn around, they're either totally lying to you or they're spinning the truth or coming up with their own version of it. And the only real truth is the one that's written down on the pages. So Revelation was born out of that.
You know, it's funny, in the last year, I've talked to more people, John, that I've gone back to reading the Bible, gone back to church, because they really feel like this moment in history feels consequential and some, downright scary. Do you see that a lot in your world too, just people going back to the basics of church and family and the Bible?
100%. And I've actually had people who had never even contemplated going to the scripture, or that even atheists, they don't believe in God at all, that have hit me up and said, hey, what does the Bible say about this? Or what does it say about that? And I'm like, wow, I'm glad you asked the question. Let me sit down and show you what it says. It's happening all over the place. There's a verse in the Bible that's in Ephesians that says, we wrestle not with flesh and blood, but with principalities and powers and the rulers of the darkness of this earth. And that's a big statement, because all of us get caught up in Trump versus Biden and left versus right and all this culture war stuff. And what the book says is that, yeah, that's just a byproduct of the actual war that's going on. So the video that I'm releasing tomorrow morning, it'll be on YouTube, it'll be on Rumble under my channels, also on my X account and on my Truth social account, shows the devil blasting through a fiery portal into the woods of Tennessee. And on the other side of this church I'm standing in is Michael the Archangel comes blasting down to the ground in a giant ball of light, pulling a sword from the sheath, and these guys start walking straight at each other with me standing in between them, representing humanity in the middle of this war, this unseen war that's going on. So I consider this to be the most important song I've ever written.
Wow.
I think it absolutely is, and I think for so many believers who have gone back and they are restudying Revelation, particularly Revelation 13, when you talk about the beast and the forming of these 7 nations that come together and what that means for humanity, it also mentions a world that becomes offended at everything. And I feel like even before all of what we have seen recently, that portends of what we have heard in Revelation, that was one of the first indicators we had 2 decades ago that everyone just became offended at everything.
Yeah, there's a lot of markers. You're exactly right. A lot of people don't bring that one up. So thank you for bringing that up. There's a lot of markers in there. We look at the earth today and go, what has happened here? And it also talks about they would rather believe a lie than the truth, meaning they know the truth, but they choose just not to believe it and rather follow the lie. Tell me that does not describe our country for sure, but most of the world these days. So he is coming back at some point. And I think a lot of people are starting to wake up and realize, okay, this is not a game anymore. Again, this song, Revelation, was not written to be a hit song. I don't care what happens to it, honestly, in that realm. It's not a piece of commerce. This is a message for everybody to listen to, be able to share, and hopefully wake people up all around this country.
Yeah, we do need it. Speaking of revelation, I think a lot of Americans 2 weeks ago tonight got quite a revelation when they got to see Joe Biden for 90 minutes straight. Now, anyone who's watched a press conference or followed him on the trail knew this for the last 2 years, although some of them wouldn't report it. But now everybody saw it. It has changed the political world in ways I could never have imagined. You've had a lot of fun observations, some of them funny about Hunter Biden, but give us a little bit of your assessment of what we are in this moment, Democrats eating their own candidate.
Well, if Joe Biden was leading in the polls, they wouldn't care that he has dementia, okay? Well, that's just a fact. If he was leading Trump by 4 or 5 points, nobody would be talking about it. They'd still be covering it up. But when he started to lose, and lose in a big way, all of a sudden we've got to highlight his dementia. I look at that debate and wonder if the Democrats didn't do that on purpose, allow him to go on in early like that, knowing how he would perform, just so they'd have a reason to try to bump him out. But it doesn't look like he wants to go anywhere. And as my old Granny Rich used to say, you made your bed, now you got to lie in it. You got to deal with the consequences of what you did. So, man, what an interesting next few months we're going to have in this country.
Oh boy, oh boy. Well, and between the president and the vice president and their speeches, there's plenty of incoherence to go around. At least Joe Biden has age to blame. With Kamala Harris, I don't know if I know she doesn't poll any better, but do you think that she's probably a likely replacement should that happen where Joe Biden gets yanked off?
Well, do you think it matters who they replace him with? Because the same people running our country now who are behind the scenes are going to be running it no matter who is sitting in that White House. So I don't really think it matters. It's like saying after the Titanic hit the iceberg, we're going to swap out the captain real quick and see if we can save her. There's nothing going to save these policies and the amount of damage and carnage they have wreaked upon the United States. That's why people that never dreamed about voting for Donald Trump are now jumping ship and supporting him to try to get in there and fix this mess.
Yeah, people know we need to fix and we need to quickly. John, you have a great sense of humor, and I don't want to let this go without getting an opportunity. You have a pretty good theory why Hunter Biden came back to the White House, don't you?
Yeah, I think it was a pretty smart move. Everybody's worried about Joe Biden not being able to take that phone call at 3 a.m. And I said, basically on my X account, that's why I brought Hunter back, because he never sleeps. He's up 24/7, and we all know why. So it might have been actually a smart move on their part.
How about that? They found a thing for his skill set.
Hunter Biden might actually have a few good connections in his phone, too, should Joe Biden have to be up at 3 a.m. I want to ask you about President Trump. Go ahead.
I was going to say, think about who might be calling at 3 a.m. It could be the Chinese. Yeah. Okay, he's got all their phone numbers. It could be the Ukrainians. He's got all their phone numbers. I mean, Hunter Biden's got everybody's phone number, apparently. He's done a lot of business with a lot of people. So maybe that was a more strategic move than we realized. I didn't mean to step on you there.
No, that's great. Hey, good. Could be a stripper in Vegas. You never know who is going to call that phone number that I've actually seen embedded in some emails, but I'm not going to put that out there. I want to ask you about President Trump and his VP pick. So the rumors have swirled that he's going to announce this weekend. I think it'll likely be a few days before the RNC. I think that's a pretty safe bet. Is there anyone who is a favorite pick for you, or even a group of favorites?
I do have a few that I like. I think J.D. Vance is really strong. I like what he's done. I like where he comes from, that you know, if you ever read Hillbilly Elegy, you understand what his background is. He knows America from the ground up in a very literal sense. I also really love Dr. Ben Carson. I've gotten to know him well over the years. I've said that if he was the vice president, he would be the calm to Trump's storm. You know, those two guys in the room, you've got both sides of that equation covered. I think you would have a lot of really productive conversations and great things happening for the country. We have some good picks. Unlike the other side, they don't have anybody that anybody cares to support. We've got a wealth of, I think, of great candidates.
Yeah, it's a deep bench. That's one of the amazing things when you look at the list. John, real quickly, we got about a minute left. We're going to be going to this news conference in a little bit. What will you be watching for in Joe Biden's performance tonight?
I mean, I've got the popcorn in the microwave. It's ready to go. I'll tell you what, my two sons who are 12 and 14, we were on a summer family vacation when that debate happened. We were in a hotel room, and I said, let's watch the debate. And they're like, I don't want to watch a debate. I said, oh, you might want to watch this one. They go, okay. So we watched it, and 5 minutes in, my two young boys are saying, what's wrong with the president? What is the matter with him? Is he having a problem? I mean, they couldn't believe what they were saying. So tonight I told him he's about to have this big speech, and they said, oh, we want to watch that for sure. So he's gotten everybody's attention. Again, this could be just another way to set him up by his own party to have him fail miserably, so they got even more of a reason to push him out. What a sad state of affairs in this country. Meanwhile, the fires are burning all around the planet. We got to do some heavy praying for our country.
Amen to that.
Yeah, I think every time he says, come on, man, or that's not a joke, everybody has to take a shot of Redneck Riviera whiskey. But then I think we would all be toe up from the flow up, G'd up from the feet up, and we would not remember the rest of the speech. So we're going to be having that in just a few minutes. We'll be carrying it live. But for now, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, America. We'll be joining President Joe Biden's very important, highly watched news conference here on Real America's Voice in just a few seconds. But first, we want to turn to some of the things that are going on in the political and policy space, including the big win on Capitol Hill yesterday for the SAVE Act, a major piece of election integrity. And I couldn't think of a better person to bring us up to speed on all those things than the senior legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation. He's also the manager of Heritage's Election Law Reform Initiative. One of the most important things, he's also an author of Project 2025, a great plan and vision for the next president. Joining us right now, our good friend, Hans von Spakovsky. Hans, great to have you on.
Well, thanks for having me.
So I want to start with the passage last night of the SAVE Act. It's not going to get through the Senate, of course, but the fact that the House was able to make this statement that, yes, only federal citizens, renew it again, only citizens should be voting in elections, federal elections, and also it's okay for states to do a citizenship check. Why was it needed?
It's needed because at the moment, almost nothing is done in any of the states to verify the citizenship of people who are registering the vote. Now, folks on the left side of the political aisle, Democrats who all oppose doing anything about this, say, oh, it's not a problem, aliens aren't registering and voting. But the evidence is clear.
Yeah.
I testified 2 months ago about this. I cited case after case after case of aliens being found registered and voting in various states across the country.
That's a great point.
Right, and never mind the motor voter stuff. There are multiple projects that are highlighting how you have illegal aliens who are registering through Social Security services, and they are, some of them getting through the cracks, aren't they?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And again, that's a real problem. Look, it tells you something that, for example, on the alien voting issue, only 5 Democrats supported a bill to do something as simple as telling states verify citizenship. Look, that's the same way that the left is opposed to something as common sense as voter ID.
It really is amazing how much the left is out of sync with issues that are often 80-90% with Americans when it comes to election integrity. Hans, I want to turn to another thing that I think feels out of sync for some people. Joe Biden went through the whole primary season. He's clearly got the delegates to be the nominee. And now Democrats want him to drop out and they want to swap out the nominee. Tell us a little bit about the legal realities that the Democrats might find in these states.
Boy, it's a real problem if they want to change the nomination, because the states all have very early deadlines for the party to certify to each state who their nominee is. And, this has gotten worse over the years because so many states now have early voting. And so in probably at least half the states, August is the deadline for the DNC to tell states who the individual should be on the ballot. If they have to do a replacement, early September, again, is the deadline. So it's going to be really difficult for them unless they change at the convention and change their rules and get someone else to really do anything about this. And remember, their delegates are pledged to vote for the individual who won the primary in their state. And that's a matter of state law in some places too. So legally, they've got real problems.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Hans, you have been diligently working on some 900 pages of policy recommendations in the form of Project 2025. It has become the target of a number of people in Hollywood, Taraji P. Henson, Lizzo, and a slew of others. Why are they just now finding out about this, and what are they so worried about?
I would be willing to bet you that not a single one of those critics has read one page of that 900-page proposal. Look, this started 2 years ago. We didn't exactly make a secret about it. In fact, it's up on a website. Anyone can look at it. And it's basically a chapter on every major federal agency, the Department of Justice, the Commerce Department, and it talks about how those agencies should be reformed and how they should be run more efficiently and more effectively. I think the reason this has now suddenly come up is because Democrats need a distraction. They need a distraction from the serious questions that have arisen about the physical and mental capabilities of their nominee. And so suddenly they're handing out talking points, fabricated talking points about what Project 2025 actually intends to do.
Yeah, they've created this red herring, which is that it was written for Donald Trump, and he's pretending like it was written before Donald Trump was even close to being the nominee, and we didn't know who was going to be the nominee. You do this because you want to inform whoever the next president is with the best ideas that Heritage has, right?
That is exactly right. And I would challenge anyone who's listening to these false criticisms, go read it. Yeah. If you got a particular department you're interested in, like the Department of Justice, go read the chapter on it. I'll bet you read it and you're going to come away from it saying, that's common sense. That's the way that department ought to be run.
Amazing.
Hans, we just got 45 seconds left. President Biden about to take the stage. Is there anything he can say or do that will save his stability as the nominee?
I don't think so. Every time he makes a public appearance, everyone watching it, I mean, frankly, it's embarrassing. I actually feel sorry for him, and I don't understand how his family, if they were really concerned about him, would be pushing him to continue as the nominee.
That is a very big part of this equation. You're right. Hans, as always, great to have you on. Your expertise and your insight analysis, stellar as always. Great to have you. Folks, go check out Project 25. It's a darn good read. A lot of great ideas in there. All right. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we expect the 46th President of the United States to be taking the stage for a very high-stakes news conference. We'll have that right after these messages. Hey, America, are you frustrated by the relentless legal attacks on President Trump? These tactics, known as lawfare, threaten our justice system, and many view these battles as attempts to hinder political rivals rather than pursuing true justice. It's overwhelming, but there is a way to respond. You know what you do? You join AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, at amac.us/no noise. As a member of AMAC, like I am, you become part of an organization committed to ensuring our judicial system serves justice, not political agendas. AMAC is your voice to combat those who misuse our legal framework for political ends, standing strong in defense of fairness. Sign up today for just $1 for your first year. By joining, you'll be part of a community that champions the rule of law and protects constitutional rights with over 2 million members, myself included. AMAC is a formidable advocate for justice. Don't miss out. Take advantage of this limited time offer, $1 for your first year. That's a great deal. You can join right now by visiting amac.us/no noise.
Let's make them wonder. Let's squeeze them for a change instead of them constantly squeezing us. And then, finally, we